Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dylan Cyr-Yuzicappi, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about myself, as well as explain my views on residential schools and their impact on my generation of the Indigenous people in Canada. I will then conclude by offering some suggestions for your consideration. The First Nation to which I belong to is called the Standing Buffalo Dakota First Nation. It is located in the Qu'Appelle Valley in Saskatchewan and is part of Treaty 4. I originally came from a family of 5, but moved in to live with my grandma and 2 aunties after my father passed away. I then went on to attend Mother Teresa Middle School, a school that really helped me to find my way as an individual. MTMS gave me many opportunities and exposed me to new ways of learning. Some of the new ways of learning for me was the hands-on and experiential learning, because in my previous school, we would just sit in the classroom all day. The staff introduced me to the sports that I now love. They also provided me the opportunity to have a mentor who has become my father figure, as I haven't had one since my father passed away. After spending 3 years at MTMS for grades 6, 7, and 8, and with the help of the staff of MTMS, I entered my first year of high school at Miller High School in Regina. I, however, switched to Athol Murray College, Notre Dame, halfway through grade 9 because I wanted a better school environment, more like the one I experienced at MTMS. Ultimately, though, my main reason for going to Athol Murray College of Notre Dame was that my grandmother wanted me to get the best education possible, and I will continue to fulfill her wish, even though she has now also passed away. I wouldn't be here talking to you if it weren't for the teachers and staff of MTMS, so I'd just like to thank them for this opportunity. I specifically want to thank Ms. Cote, who is here today, and was my amazing grade 6 teacher. She now is the principal of the school. I would also like to thank Mr. Kleisinger, or Mr. K, who spoke earlier, who was my teacher and the first principal of MTMS. These 2 people were some of my first role models in my life. MTMS has meant a lot to me over the years, mainly because they have given me so many different opportunities in education and sports. Before I attended MTMS, I could barely look someone in the eye and introduce myself to other people, as I was very shy. And most of the staff of MTMS could attest to this. After spending time at MTMS, I began to develop very good social skills. MTMS has many resources to help the students. The school has given me the opportunity to play sports such as football, wrestling, and rugby by helping me pay for my fees. And also, if I ever need equipment such as wrestling shoes or football gloves, they are provided. MTMS gave me a chance to represent Saskatchewan in an annual football tournament held in Texas this past February. Through education, MTMS has shown me, other graduates, and current students of MTMS many different career choices. They have helped all the graduates so far with getting adjusted to the craziness of high school, by having a staff member visit us frequently at our respective high schools. My current goals for the future are to go to university to study political science or to attend Saskatchewan Polytechnic to take welding. While attending post-secondary, my goal is to play rugby and football. Just this past weekend, I had the opportunity to try out for the provincial rugby team for Saskatchewan, and I'm happy to say I made it. As a young First Nations male attending school today, I've noticed that many young First Nations people go down the wrong path and do things such as drugs, join gangs, party, and get in trouble with the law. I have watched as many of them throw the chance at education away, which is basically like throwing your life away, because education is a doorway to many opportunities. I believe this is mostly because there isn't anything interesting for them in school, or they can't afford to take part in outside programs to keep them busy. or they are unable to get to their activity because of lack of transportation. It is my goal to show my family and friends that if you try hard enough and work at it, that you can come out of any situation and make something of your life. I especially want to set an example for my 10-year-old brother Michael, who hopes to attend MTMS as well. Personally, I have at least 2 family members who attended residential schools. Honestly, it was only a result of preparing for the speech that I discovered that they went to residential school. One of them was my grandfather, Lyle Bitternose, who attended George Gordon Residential School in Saskatchewan. Although he only went for 1 year, Lyle said to me, and I quote, "Residential school was one of the worst times of my life, and I will never forget it," end of quote. He told me this a couple of weeks ago when I asked him about it. It was so disheartening to hear this from someone I love and respect. My other grandfather who attended residential school is named Cyr-Yuzicappi. He attended the Lebret Residential School in Saskatchewan. He was forced to attend from age 8 until he was 18 years old. My mother and auntie have told me of the stories my grandfather would tell them, how he was abused in many different ways during his time there. I believe Grandpa Charlie never told me of his experience because he was sad and embarrassed by it. I was shocked and saddened to hear his story. But it is good to talk about such things because if we don't say it out loud, our history will get lost. My generation will not know the struggles of their people if no one tells the stories of the residential schools, which isn't good for anyone. It is so important that we know the truth. In preparation for this speech, I reflected on how we could better meet the educational needs of First Nations youth. Some of the ideas I have on how the education can give us hope and promote reconciliation are TRHC Call to Action number 89, promoting physical activity among First Nations. You need to help us get involved and stay involved in sporting activities. Why? Because it keeps us busy and keeps us away from bad influences. We could also benefit if we had assistance with fees and buying some things like running shoes, because this eliminates the boundaries most of us face that prevents us from getting involved. TRC Call to Action number 87, providing public education on the story of Aboriginal people in sports. You need to give us people to look up to as mentors and role models, because some of our role models have been affected by residential schools in some way. TRC Call to Action number 7, strategies to eliminate education and employment gaps between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal Canadians. Show us employment opportunities and train us on how to get jobs. TRC Call to Action number 11, providing adequate funding to end the backlog of First Nations people waiting to enter post-secondary education. Make the dream of going to university or technical school a reality by having funding ready to go and in place for First Nations people to use for post-secondary education. I would now like to thank the organizers of this conference for inviting me to speak, but most of all, for giving me the opportunity to dig deeper into my family history and learn the truths of what my grandfather's lives were like as a result of going through residential school. I have learned something I will never forget, and it has inspired me to keep their story alive for future generations. Thank you.